Alrighty, welcome back to another Wisco Fanatics Tuesday night. We are here to talk about the draft. So the Packers had 8 draft picks. So we're going to talk through the Packers draft picks as well as their undrafted free agents. And a couple things, the Packers brought in some other guys for some mini camp and a few tryouts. So we're going to run through those as well, just mention the couple names that they brought in. But we're going to hit the intro, and then we're going to start with the first-round pick, Matthew Golden.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Alrighty, so all 4 of us at some point were in attendance for the draft. Jake, Simon, and Bryant were there all 3 days. I was there just on Friday, and it was really cool to see. Honestly, it was a little bit unrecognizable how they had everything dressed up around Lambeau, and they had all the roads closed and stuff like that. It was really interesting to see. It was really cool, and I think it's funny how Lions fans are really trying to convince themselves that their draft was better in any way, shape, or form that they can. Like when the numbers came out that the Green Bay draft was doing well, then it's, oh, well, there's nothing to do. It's like, no, this is the thing to do. Yeah. That's why they're holding it like it's an event. Like, so it's funny to see it. But you guys were there all 3 days. What were your guys' thoughts on the draft this week?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was amazing. The whole atmosphere was electric. Me, Jake, and Simon were like 10 or 12 rows from the front of the general mission, round 1. We didn't realize how many people were behind us. We knew there was a lot of people behind us, and Jake is like a tree, so he can see a little bit further. But we knew there was a lot of people behind us, but when they showed the overhead view the next morning, we were like, holy crap. We had like 120,000 people behind us probably. Yeah. It was insane. And then when we picked Matthew Golden, the place exploded. When they were booing the Bears, it exploded. I mean, Clay Matthews kicked it off with the Bears still suck, which was awesome. The whole place was chanting. Overall, it was just amazing. And one thing I got to say is kudos to the city of Green Bay, because I thought for sure I would hit traffic. Not one time. And I was there all 3 days at the peak times and leaving when it was over. Not one time did we get stuck in traffic.
Yeah, I was impressed with that as well, leaving on Friday night.
It took me longer to figure out how to get onto the interstate than it did being in traffic the final day. So, like, it was
because the road's closed and stuff, not because it's stupid.
And so amazing job by Green Bay.
Simon or Jake, anything you guys want to say about the festivities?
Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, okay, I'll go. First of all, I finally got to meet Simon and Bryant as they stayed at my house. So that was honestly, you guys ever see those videos? My voice is still messed up because I went to game 4 of the Bucks game, and I just haven't talked to anybody at work. So which is okay because I don't want to talk to anybody there anyways. But it was it was kind of a surreal moment. You ever see those videos of those guys that are like best friends with dudes online for a video game, and then they meet them in real life? It's like it kind of felt like that. Like, yeah, I get to see your face and we get to talk back. We talk about other sports outside of the Packers, but that's in the back room. But when I got to see you, I was just like, yep, that's what I thought you would look like in real life.
Yeah. It was very natural. It was just like, you wouldn't think it was the first time we were meeting in person.
Yeah, it didn't feel like that, honestly. Like 5 minutes into it, I was like, oh, yeah, I know these guys.
Yeah.
But want to give a shout out to Mark Murphy for getting the draft in Green Bay. Absolutely an incredible job. Simon and I actually ran into him because we had to wait for Bryant because they wouldn't let him come in with a football that he already purchased, which was – and that's nothing with the city of Green Bay or the Packers. That's just the NFL rule, and it's a silly rule to me. But, I mean, just honestly, shout out to him. Shout out to the NFL. They actually did a nice job organizing everything. It was even though it rained on Friday for a few hours, it was still a blast, man.
Yeah.
That is a memory. I created memories I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, 100%. And I got to be there obviously with the 3 of you and my dad. So the people that obviously with Jake and my dad that I grew up watching sports with all the time, and then the guys that I talk sports with the most being Simon and Bryant. Mike would be the other one who joined us to talk about the Badgers. But you guys have been. This is our third season now we are going to be, as we're heading into 2025, a fourth season of Packers football that we've been discussing together.
Oh yeah.
That's what I said. I said fourth.
No, I thought you said third.
This was our third. We just ended our third, and now we're heading into the fourth.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. I know numbers and stuff.
I can't. I don't. So,
but yeah,
I can at least count to 4.
It's cool to be there with you three and my dad. So, Simon, anything else you wanted to throw out there?
Yeah, I just there was definitely a lot more people over all 3 days than I thought there, especially Friday morning when it was kind of crappy out. Like there were still 100 and some thousand people there that showed up, and mostly throughout the day and stuff. And it was an absolute blast. And I was telling Bryant this, like, I don't know if I would go back to another draft. I think it was like kind of once experience for me. Unless it's in Green Bay again, then I maybe go, but I probably wouldn't go to like another city or anything. But yeah, I had an absolute blast with Jake and all you guys and stuff. Like it was great. It was a great time.
I'd consider going to like New York or Vegas just to see if it's more fun in a big city, but that's about it.
Well, one of the girls we talked to, that she was sitting right next to us, or standing right next to us, she goes to every draft, and she went to the Vegas one. She said it was miserable because it was like 100 degrees out, and you're standing on
concrete.
One other thing I wanted to say, our experience that we had. Well, one week, Simon and Jake were lucky enough to win a couple things where we got to go down on the field, which was cool. But then on the day 3, me and Simon's feet and everything were just dead. So we walked into Lambeau and we're like, well, let's just go sit in the stands for a little bit. We ended up sitting in the stands and just sitting in Lambeau Field and watching the draft on the Jumbotron for the rest of the day. So we were sitting in Lambeau Field when Sorrell came in there and did a Lambeau leap and everyone was cheering him on. It was just kind of really, really cool experience. So definitely never forget it for sure. And once again, Jake, and thank you for your hospitality. You and your girlfriend. It was awesome. So,
well, more me, but you know,
she was there.
She was doing.
She existed. She existed.
Be honest, if she said no, we would have been staying in a hotel.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
All right, so we're gonna jump into the draft picks, and we're gonna start. Connor said also, we know we're gonna do that. Connor said he got to go to the Hall of Fame for the first time ever, an amazing experience.
Oh yeah, nice. The Hall of Fame is dope.
Yeah, we're gonna start with Matthew Golden. We're just gonna go in order. I have the first and last pick. Bryant has the second and second last pick, and then Jake has the third and the fifth or the sixth, and Simon has the 2 in the middle, so that we're kind of splitting up the excitement / importance of the picks. So I'm just going to start with Matthew Golden, and I want to apologize. I want to apologize firstly to the 3 of you, and also to anybody who takes in our content. Like I want to make I'm not doing this because he got picked by the Packers. I want to give a genuine apology because I originally had Matthew Golden as my 15th wide receiver. And I talked to Jake a couple weeks ago, and I told him I moved him up to 9. And if I didn't watch him so early and ended up liking other guys and having them more fresh in my mind, I probably would have had him around like 6. And the reason I want to make an apology about that is because if I had spent more time, or I had more time to go back through them, I would have, like I said, probably put him around my number 6. And this is just, it's kind of one of those things where it goes back to, I would like to be able to do this show full time so that I can dedicate more time to stuff like this. And even though I started at the end of January with my wide receivers, like I still ended up getting, grinding back against the wall when we were getting towards our days that we were actually doing our shows. So I wanted to throw that out there before we started talking about Matthew Golden, because my original notes said good things. Like I put in my notes all the stats. He was 58 out of 83. That's a 69.9% reception percentage.
Yeah.
Nice.
He had 987 yards, 9 touchdowns, 303 yards after the catch, only forced 8 missed tackles, so he's not super elusive, but obviously the fastest wide receiver in the draft and the second fastest player in the draft. He was 11 for 18 on contested catches. That's 61.1%. That's pretty decent, and only had 4 drops, so he's a pretty sure-handed wide receiver. I think, and I did say this when we did our wide receivers, the thing that kind of made me hesitant towards the Texas guys is that I feel that they didn't use them downfield enough, because Texas ran a lot of close to the line of scrimmage and behind the line of scrimmage offense with their passing game. So I think that was one of the reasons I did have them lower, and it was the same reason I had Isaiah Bond lower as well. But Matthew Golden, he makes good cuts. He's a decent run blocker. He's tough in the red zone. He's good in the middle of the field. And I'm interested to see if Green Bay can tap into that, untapped potential that I think that they had at Texas because of their closer passing game. Two of his best games were the conference championship against Georgia. He had 8 catches on 12 targets for 162 yards. And in the first bowl game that Texas had against Arizona State, he was 7 receptions on 10 targets for 149 yards and a touchdown. Then against Ohio State, he was only 2 for 3 for 51 yards. So Ohio State clamped him up a little bit more. But I'll open it up to you three if there's anything you guys want to say on Matthew Golden.
Yeah, this is the guy I talked about when we originally did our wide receiver review, and I liked him a lot. He makes really tough contested catches. I think obviously if you had the benefit of Restrepo's like pro day and what happened with Isaiah Bond, you would have had him higher from even that too.
Right.
But for me, one of the things I've kind of noticed, and seen is people talking about a lot of times where he probably could have had more yards, but Quinn Ewers' arm wasn't strong enough to get him out there, and that's why he was drawing pass interference calls and stuff too, is because he was having to get underneath balls and wait for him. Well, guess what? Jordan Love, he's got a strong enough arm to throw this to this guy. So it's gonna be fun and interesting. Hey, and maybe you are right. Maybe he doesn't pan out, but he's a very exciting player. Made some filthy one-handed catches for his size. He can make some nice contested catches, something like an 83% contested catch rate. So I'm pretty excited about him. And I love his energy and personality after seeing him at the draft.
Yeah, for sure.
I got one thing to say. I like how everybody is all worried about his size and then forget how big Jaden Reed is.
Or Tyreek Hill.
Jaden Reed's not a huge guy, and then he was really good at contested catches in Michigan State too. Like we've said that 100 times. He's
a quick guy. I mean, if he can really pick up the offense, I mean, having guys like Jaden Reed going in, to their third year in this offense, guys like Romeo Dobbs going in their fourth year, Dontavian Wicks, if he can get with those guys, Jordan Love obviously, get with those guys and start understanding the little nuances of this offense, understanding where to sit in the zone. I mean, he's got breakaway speed. And we've seen Matt LaFleur be brilliant with how he's able to scheme guys wide open. So I'm looking to see Matthew Golden be wide open and run straight down Lambeau Field to the end zone and hit a couple Lambeau leaps this year. So I think it's a great pick. Not just for the vibes on Thursday night, because that was absolutely a top 5 sports moment I've ever been part of live, dude. That was electric, dude.
Connor credited how Mark Murphy announced the pick.
He killed it.
For the first time since 2002, the Packers are selecting a wide receiver. Yeah, and when we're hosting the draft, that was exciting.
I thought that was funny when he did that, because you heard like a large majority of the fans realize what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And then it got even louder when everyone realized what just happened.
Yeah.
So
you want to know how you know it's a good pick? When you see like live streams or like TikToks of opposing fans reacting to the pick and they're like, shit. They're like, yep, we did a good thing. That's good.
Simon, you have thoughts on Matthew Golden?
My favorite was the Ty Schmidt reaction from the Pat McAfee show. Not too much to add. Just a couple things. He had a 61% contested catch rate last year, 17 yards per catch, which is huge. 2.1 yards per route run. But yeah, he's definitely got the burst too. Once he gets the ball in his hands and he like kind of gets past the guy, he's gonna be gone. I really like the pick. He was my third rated wide receiver going into the draft. I think not to get too much into the draft stuff, but I think the Packers missed like on the edge, like a bunch of edge dudes went before, and then a bunch of cornerbacks went. So like they just pivoted, and that's why you saw like the Matthew Golden pick and the Savion Williams pick.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Williams after Anthony Belton.
So what was it? What was his 40 time again?
429.
429.
What's the date today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll talk about Anthony Belton here. Just a mammoth of a man. 6'6", 335 pounds, just shy of 34-inch arms. So he's got the size for sure. Big, powerful mauler. One thing I'm gonna call this dude IHOP because he wants to pancake everyone, dude. Like he wants to push them into the ground. Like so, that's gonna be my nickname for him because he wants to kill people. Like, and I get he was doing it at the Senior Bowl and he does it in games and he wants to put your ass on the ground. He'll knock the rushers off track and open bigger holes for the running game. A lot of times when we were talking about bigger like people this draft prep, we were always saying, well, they're so tall they stay high in their pads. Not Anthony Belton. He gets low. He has a low pad level, so that's pretty good. So he isn't great. The one thing about him is what I think they're going to do with him is, yes, he was a tackle, but I honestly think he's going to compete for Sean Ryan's job because one thing he doesn't do all that well is recover and move in like open spaces as well, where you not have to do that as much as a guard. Yeah, he'll struggle on second level blocks and stuff like that. But if you can put him in the interior where he's just mauling people and knocking them over and he's not having to move as much, I think that's going to be a very good spot for him. Almost like what the Eagles did with Mekhi Becton this last year, like 6'7" guard just wrecking people, right? So that's kind of the sense I get with him. He just needs to work on hand and feet movement, but I think he can probably push for the starting guard job this year. And if not, it'll be nice to have him because I don't know that we're going to pay. Everything is pointing towards us not paying Sean Ryan and Rasheed Walker next year and just getting the comp picks. So I think Belton's going to have every chance to take that position from Sean Ryan. And if he pans out and have him opposite of Banks, that's going to be a huge guard group. That's just going to – and then you have Jenkins in the middle. They're going to wreck some people.
Yeah. They're going to be massive up front.
Yeah.
If he
also,
takes
last thing I want to say –
the right guard spot. Huge.
Yeah, they're going to be huge. They're going to be huge up front. And that's big for the NFC North. Last thing I want to say is everyone's like, oh, consensus, he was a third-round pick or blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? We had to take him in the second because he probably wasn't going to be there for us in the third because a lot of tackles and everything went off the board and Belton, there was like a cliff a little bit where tackles and everything fell off. Belton would be the first person to be hit, like, in my opinion, after that cliff. So, yeah, he's not the top tier, but he's the one – yeah, he's like the 1A in the second tier, in my opinion.
Let me give you my exact number on that. So we did 10 tackles. Anthony Belton was my number 11 tackle.
Yeah.
So out of those 10 that I had ranked before Anthony Belton, 9 out of 10 were selected before him.
Yep.
So the only one that wasn't was Wyatt Millam, and he was selected in the third round.
Yeah.
So
who I liked a lot, but
yeah, and we're talking one guy.
Yeah. So everyone that's like, well, why would they pick? He was a third-round grade. Well, guess what? NFL doesn't care about that. You say third-round grade, that means they're going to probably have to take him in the second because we're in the back end of the third round. So we're hoping he falls to us.
I mean, the example that you can give you is on watching the best available and how the number 20 best available pick per NFL.com ended up as a fifth-round pick.
Yeah.
Like, that shit means nothing to the NFL. They all have their own ways of evaluating that we will never know unless we end up working in that room.
If he turns out to be a solid starter in the guard position, that second round pick is a home run.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And, history tells us that we should probably just trust the Packers second round picks. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
That's valid. So mentioned where I already had him. The thing is even if he doesn't start this year, he can even be your swing, your extra, your offensive lineman that you plug in to any spot but center if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Look what happened in the playoffs when we lost offensive linemen.
Exactly. Gutekunst and LaFleur both talked about it, that he can play both guard and both tackle positions, and we know that the Packers love their versatile guys. Darian said I thought we'd get a D tackle earlier in the draft, but whoever we wanted wasn't there as other teams reached for the D lineman they got. That's exactly it. A bunch of them.
I did not expect Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon to go both in front of us.
Yeah, same.
And Walter Nolan.
Yeah. Yeah, they all went super early. Justin said, can he pull if necessary? He would be scary coming down the line.
He needs to improve on that. He's not quite as nimble.
But he's not overly athletic because he is just such a gigantic human.
It would be funny to see
he might
him.
miss this walk in space.
Yeah. The other thing that I noticed was that he's good at picking up passed off blocks. And as far as the second level goes, like that's not his strength. His strength is going to be to open up holes, not to lead block.
Yeah.
And that's all you need for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I agree with Bryant. I think he does fit better at right guard. Just imagine we're running a dive play with Josh Jacobs, who already wants to run through your face. And you have a freaking 340-pound dude who's already pre-ripping your face off. So, I mean, that's just terrible for you.
The other thing that I had written down about him, he allowed just a 2.7% pressure rate, so that's super low. Jake or Simon, do you guys have anything you guys want to say on Anthony Belton?
No.
Not really. I think you guys hit everything that I pretty much had.
All right. Scott said A for the Packers draft. That's another thing, too. You don't have to get super caught up in people's grades. Scott, I'm glad you liked it. I do it more on like if I liked it or not like I'm going to lock them in as a B+, because you can find tons of examples of previous drafts where drafts that ended up being great were given Fs on draft day. Like,
Yep.
You know, take it for the information, not for what people are going to grade it as.
Yeah, and like for a lot of the guys that I had like notes on, it's more like how they can fit in with what the Packers' vision is, not necessarily if they're going to work out or not, because who knows?
We don't know. We won't know for like 3 years.
Yep.
Obviously, unless somebody explodes before then, but that's going to be more like skill position guys.
I'm for it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Savion Williams.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about a 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver. He does. I will say the one bad thing about him, he has a little bit of inconsistency with his hands. But outside of that, everything is just flashy and exciting, and it's amazing. So he started 38 games over the last 3 years for the Horned Frogs. He caught 130 passes for 1,576 yards, 14 touchdowns. He had 322 rush yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground this last year. And Brian Gutekunst said he fits Matt's offense to a T. And I 100% agree with that. I think they were kind of trying to use Jaden Reed in that little bit of like all-purpose role, and now they finally got a guy that actually fits that play style where he doesn't have to mold himself into that, but he is that, you know, and they could just put Jaden Reed in the slot, let him live there, let him eat there, and that's completely fine with me. So I did take a little tidbit from our boy Mike Spofford. He said he talked to Gutekunst. He said, at first what caught his eye when he began studying Williams, Gutekunst didn't hesitate to answer. His ability with the ball in his hands. He said obviously size as well, but his determination, his ability, his elusiveness, his power, his ability to break tackles, those were the first things that stuck out to you. So I really wanted to give credit to Mike Spofford for getting that really good quote from Gutekunst. And I got one more thing. This kid is coming in with a level of maturity that is unmatched by a lot of young 20-some-year-old Americans. Doesn't matter if you're a football player. In 2022, his mom was having what TCU called a major life event. So he was dealing with problems with his mom. And then the following year, him and his wife or his girlfriend, I don't want to be disrespectful, I don't know if he's married or not, had a baby. She was born premature. She needed to get abdominal and heart surgery. So, I mean, honestly, I just like put myself in that situation. As a girl dad, I don't know how I'd be able to handle that. And I'm 10 years older than Savion Williams. But the mental space you have to put yourself through to get through something like that is incredibly tough. I'm really happy that she's a healthy baby girl right now. So I will be taking absolutely zero, and I mean this with every fiber of my body. I will be taking zero shit talk on Savion Williams if he drops a fucking pass on third down. He has way more important things going on in his life.
Yeah.
You can miss me with that bullshit.
So, handful of questions. Scott asked, do we think Golden will be wide receiver 1? Maybe not day 1, but he's got the most draft capital invested in him.
Yep.
Andrew said he has Deebo Samuel's-esque versatility. That's going to be the biggest comparison for him because of the size and his play style.
Yeah, what I said when we drafted him was that he's Deebo but bigger, or he has Deebo type abilities, but he's bigger. I'm not calling him Deebo Samuel, but I talked about him a little bit when we did our thing. But yeah,
you were going to say to somebody like, how would you explain Savion Williams to somebody? You would say he plays like Deebo.
So this is an absolute chess piece for Matt LaFleur. This is Matt LaFleur saying, I want a Deebo Samuel. Remember last year when I was screaming on here, I'm sick of watching Jaden Reed run circles in backfield when he should be running downfield? This is what we got him for. So that Jaden Reed can come out of the slot, Matthew Golden's out wide, and Savion Williams is the one running around circles and being eye-catching because they watched tape from last week when he took an end around for 30 yards, you know what I mean, or something like that. So, yeah, just a super versatile piece. Did you guys see that they had a throwing competition in TCU?
Yep.
Did you guys see this?
No, I didn't see that.
Savion Williams out through everyone, including the quarterbacks. He can throw the football 80 yards in the air. 80 yards. He might be our Hail Mary person from our own 40.
He is throwing at least 2 passes this year. He's throwing at least 2 passes.
So
didn't he have wasn't he like 3 for 3 or some crap last year for like 100 yards and a touchdown?
He threw 1 touchdown to Jack Betch. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Hold on. I looked it up earlier.
Williams is a possible fill-in for Christian Watson, and he heals up. The replacement for Christian Watson is Matthew Golden.
Yeah, 3 for 3. Oh, sorry, 22 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you still.
So Savion Williams is not Christian Watson.
No,
he's not meant to be Christian.
Matthew
Watson.
Golden is the take the top off the defense.
I'll tell you. Imagine Savion Williams as the Wildcat quarterback with an option to Josh Jacobs and Jaden Reed next to him for a pitch.
You know what I had a vision of? Like, it's not going to happen, but I had like a little vision while I was sitting at work thinking about these draft picks today. I was like, how sick would it be to open the season with a throw out to Savion, who then bombs it down the field to Matthew Golden?
Dude, if we play the Vikings week 1 and we pull some shit like that, I
love Justin's comment, man. I love it.
So Savion is going to be running a lot of end arounds. They're just going to get the ball in his hands. So,
yes, he is kind of a Cobb-like player. Cobb was a little bit more downfield than Savion early in his career, but Justin said, I'm super excited for him. Gotta be the new short yardage craft shaft runner, and now he's playing for his daughter. I mean, Tucker Kraft's going to keep running the craft shaft.
Yeah. That's not going away.
Right?
Michael, it was good to see you this weekend as well. Connor, I'm going to save your Jair question. We can come to that after we get through all the draft guys. As for Matthew's question on how many wide receivers we keep, it's probably going to be 6. And that brings me to my thoughts on the Savion Williams pick. I like the message that Brian Gutekunst sent with this pick. And to me, the message that Goody sent with this pick is, hey, Romeo, Dontavian, Jaden, Christian, your jobs are not safe. Just because we were young and people were excited about what the potential of this room could be does not mean that your jobs are safe. We will not be afraid to invest in a space that did not perform to expectations last year. Dude, that's to me what the Golden and Savion Williams pick said.
Dude, we got to give our boy a lot of credit. He said that what's the one position that produces the most players in the draft, and it's wide receiver. Spofford said that when he was on with us before we started all our draft prep. But it was like he hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, and the more mild way of bringing it up is that Dobbs and Watson are free agents after this year, and Wicks and Reed are free agents after next year. So you can just look at it as, they're just building the room out. But it's a little bit bolder to me than that. And I'm interested to see what the Reed is probably safe.
Reed is probably safe.
He's probably the only one though.
Right.
That's like really safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying so much as to be cut, but to have his playing time lessened because he struggled with drops last year.
I seen that it was reported that Dobbs was potentially one of the ones that didn't show for the voluntary workouts of the 5 that didn't come. If that's true, I know they're voluntary, but if that's true and he's starting to have a little attitude, I don't know that he's going to make it to the season, to be honest, if I'm the Green Bay Packers. So
I'd be surprised if he didn't.
I don't know. I think he could be a trade candidate.
Depends on what they think they can get for him. Yes, Justin, we do have a large wide receiver core, but 2 will be on return teams. The other guy that I think isn't necessarily guaranteed to make it to even training camp is Mecole Hardman. I think
I said that when the Packers signed him. I was like, I don't think he's like necessarily an automatic.
I will say
some of these guys that they drafted have return experience. Like it could be just that they signed him in case somebody that didn't have return experience made it to them in the draft, and just help them retain that flex.
I will say, with as much as the Packers have, messed around with special teams and had, terrible punt returning problems, it might not be a bad idea for Mecole if he's a safe option back there, because I don't need any more PTSD from the punt return.
And that's why I think he's a lot more safe than people think. And with the new change to the kickoff rules, Mecole is going to get some returns. Like, he's going to get a lot of them. Hopefully not too many. Hopefully we're not giving up too many scores.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, for me, we've already seen what Bull Melton, which had a nice game, and Malik Heath that had a nice game once, can do. For me, I'm like, well, they're not gonna be returning the ball, so I think they're behind the 8 ball when it comes to McCole Hardman.
So I think one of those two is going to make the roster.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And I'm not off the Dobbs train. Don't get me wrong. I love Dobbs.
No, I'm not.
I just think that if he's gonna start to not be happy about his role and stuff, that they're gonna be like, okay, well, we can move on from you. Like, we can probably get a 5th or 6th for him and move on.
Well, I think the thing for me is I don't need to see a guy have 3-4 more freaking concussions, man. That's terrifying to watch. I don't want to see him end up being damaged goods, honestly.
I mean, I honestly hope he goes out there and balls out this year.
Oh, me too.
So he might as well find out. We're going to find out this year no matter what.
He's wearing a Packers helmet, dude. Go for it.
and like, there's still a ton of off season left. So, like, I don't really have any predictions on who we're going to cut or like, there's just so much off season left. And at this point, who really knows? We'll definitely we'll get there too, because I mean, we have our shows where we do predictions how the roster is going to shape up too.
Yep. I don't know that it's a for sure thing, Michael. I don't think it's a for sure thing at all. But it's interesting because Dobbs is, in my mind, still the most complete wide receiver that the Packers have on the roster.
I think he's the most reliable.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes along with that. The thing, now that we're getting back to Savion Williams, is he had 611 yards receiving, which isn't crazy, and 6 touchdowns. But he forced 18 missed tackles, and 411 of his yards were after contact, or after the catch, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, after contact would be crazy.
Yeah, well, I have after contact numbers when I get to his rushing. But that yards after the catch is 67.3% of his total. His elusiveness rating as a rusher is 151.9, which is absurd. That's similar to Marshawn Lloyd actually was when we were bringing him in last year. Savion Williams' rushing numbers, PFF credited him for 51 rushes for 322 yards and 6 more touchdowns. So he had 12 total touchdowns last year, and in his 322 rushing yards, he averaged 6.3 yards per rush, and 215 of his 322 yards were after contact. That's 66.8% of his total. He fights hard for his yards after contact, and in the running game, he forced 22 more missed tackles. So between rushing and receiving, in his 111 touches, he forced 40 missed tackles, and about 2/3 of his yards came after the catch or after contact. So very, very interested to see how they use Savion Williams. Not the best run blocker, but again, with wide receivers, Savion Williams is my number 12 wide receiver. 3 wide receivers that I had ranked behind him went before him. So, again, with as far as the draft stuff goes, the fact that Savion Williams was available in the 3rd round is part of what made him the pick. But very interested to see how they use him and what the Packers offense in general looks like. So we can go to possibly our favorite pick of the day on Saturday and talk about Baron Sorrell, Simon.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but this was a really cool story because when the Packers picked him, they didn't even know he was in the green room, but he decided to stay all 3 days. He said he's like a huge fan of the NFL growing up and stuff, so he wanted to be there and stuff, and he almost considered going home, but he decided to stay, which is well rewarded. Like Bryant said, we were sitting in the stadium and we were like, oh, no way, he's like just sitting there. And he comes out, and obviously the Packers fans give him a lot of love. And then he comes out to Lambeau Field and walks around the field, and like everyone's like, "Oh shit, it's Baron Sorrell!" Like and then he does a Lambeau leap, and he played to the fans and stuff. it was just a super cool experience for him. But he's edge player out of Texas, 6'3", 256, had a 9.25 RAS. Last year he had 42 total tackles, 9 sacks, 49 total pressures, and a 13% win rate. He's just like, he has a high motor dude, plays with good leverage, has a good quick initial punch, can knock blockers off balance. I think like really the only knock maybe against, if he had longer arms and was maybe a little slightly taller, I think he would have went higher. He has a little bit shorter arms, which Green Bay. So like this was my whole thing with like Green. This is a very weird draft for Green Bay as far as their tendencies go. Especially going back to like Anthony Belton, like they don't take tackles that are 330 pounds. They're in like the 310-ish range, very high athletic profile guys. So this was very weird. And Brian Gutekunst kind of shrugged it off, but like I really think they're trying to play towards those bigger guys, kind of like Philly is on their offensive line, because their dudes are just mass. I think they have the heaviest offensive line in the NFL, and all those guys are absolute movers too, and just very strong dudes. I think they kind of went away with their tendencies towards edge, and I'll talk about it here with Colin Oliver as well. But he's very good on the backside of runs, and he's good chase, creates good chase down angles. I think he could come in early and be part of the pass rush rotation that we got going on with Gary Van Ness and whoever else we decide to keep in that room, because it's very crowded as well, especially on the back end. Like, I don't know what we're going to do with, Anik Bari and some of the bottom guys. Their names are escaping me at the moment.
Cox and Mosby.
Yeah, Mosby, yeah, and Cox as well. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on it, but it was just a really cool part of the draft for everyone that got to watch him being picked.
I think he's got some versatility. The Packers said that they're going to use him probably more as a D end, but I think he's got the ability to line up inside a little bit. He's probably going to need to put a little bit of weight on if they want to use him as like a legit D tackle at any point. But in those 2 down lineman sets, I think he could be a guy in there. With that, I think he's actually got some decent speed. I wouldn't call him like fast, but he's got decent speed, and I like his play recognition, whether it be versus the pass or like an RPO situation or versus the run. But, Sorrell has a great story. It was very exciting. And Jake, I know you brought something up when we were talking to Cardboard Legacy at their event on Sunday, when you were talking to Riley.
I don't know. I just got my favorite thing. I got caught up in words there. Sorry. My favorite thing about Barron Sorrell is they asked every single Texas player that was eligible for the draft.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Who
about
was
that.
one player that you want to play for if you could at the next level, and every single one of them said Sorrell. If that doesn't speak to his character, I mean, and the Packers did go a little bit away from what they traditionally do in the draft, player profile wise, but this is definitely, Packer-ish, going for a guy with great leadership skills, great locker room guy. I mean, that's just a really big thing for me. I don't remember what did I say? I've had a lot of conversations about the draft over the last couple of days.
Talking about Goodell.
Oh yeah. That Goodell told him that he was going to stay there and wait with him. I mean, I honestly, we booed Goodell. I booed Goodell every single time.
I did
Simon
too.
was our fearless leader in that. So love the commitment. But really cool by Goodell to say that he was going to stay with him, man. That's a really cool moment for Goodell to show actually his true colors there, and for Sorrell to accept that, go out there. He had his moment, his Lambeau moment, even before training camp started. So awesome for him.
Dude, seeing him like almost in tears as Goodell was hugging him, the fact that Goodell stuck around and told him that he would announce him if he got drafted, that's really cool. Brian, do you have any thoughts on Barron Sorrell?
Yeah, real quick on his measurements. Like people, because I was thinking about this earlier, so I looked it up, and people are always all worried about measurements. Let me share some measurements with you from a previous guy that we had and Darren Sorrell, and then I'll let you guys guess who the previous guy is. Okay,
Kenny Clark.
So the previous guy was 6'3". Barron Sorrell is 6'3". Previous guy 32 and a quarter inch arms. Barron Sorrell exact same 32 and a quarter inch arm. previous guy, 240 pounds. Baron Sherrill, 256 pounds. The previous guy, 467 40. Baron Sherrill, 468 40. Previous guy, 23 bench reps. Baron Sherrill, 28. Who do you think I'm talking about?
Zadarius.
No, Zadarius is like 6'4", 6'4",
Is it Rashawn
250.
Gary?
Oh, I thought he was smaller.
Gary's
I have no idea.
250.
No.
Gary's almost 260, 270.
Yeah, dude, Gary's bigger. He's way bigger. Yeah, I have no idea.
Fuck. I don't know.
It's Clay Matthews.
Oh,
Those are
yeah.
Clay Matthews measurements. Baron Sherrill is almost
Look at
identical.
Justin had
Good
it.
job, Grandpa. I'm proud of you, Grandpa.
Hey.
But what I'm saying
Good
is,
job, Grandpa.
and Clay Matthews last season in college, 4.5 sacks. Baron Sherrill in the SEC, 6 sacks. Like, so people want to talk about the measurements. I mean, it's pretty close. And even their split times are all within like a 10th or 15th of each other. So it's very similar measurements. So like, I'm not saying he'll be Clay Matthews, but I'm saying a lot of people will.
That'd be sick.
If he's a good football player, he's a good football player, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's move on to Colin Oliver.
Yeah. So, oh man, I forgot I was gonna say something. Oh, just a funny story from like the draft. After like day 1 and 2, Bryant like lost his voice. Like he could barely speak, and from all like the booing and stuff and yelling in the crowd, and from day 1 and 2, and my voice was still good to go. And dude, I went to like a bunch of hockey games this season, and I was super loud and booing, so I got a lot of practice. It was
Practicing those throat muscles.
yeah, you know it. All right, so Colin Oliver. So like I said, speaking of like going off tendencies and stuff, this was kind of an unusual pick as far as like his size. But when I was talking to Brian after I looked him up a little bit, because I didn't know anything about this guy, to be honest with you. So he's 6'2", 240 coming out of Oklahoma State. He had a 7.74 RAS at linebacker. So during the 2023 season, he split time between his edge play and defensive end / edge, whatever you want to call it. So last year he missed all but 2 games with a foot injury, but in those 2 games he had 2 sacks and 14 total pressures on 46 pass rush snaps. And then the year prior, like I said, he split time at off-ball linebacker a little bit too. He had 415 pass rush snaps, 7 sacks, and 41 total pressures. And like I said, he split time. I think when I was talking to Brian initially about him, I was like, man, this could be like kind of a Jeff Hafley chess piece. We finally got like a speed rusher guy that we don't necessarily have on our roster, that we haven't seen in I don't know how many years. I can't remember the last time we had like a good speed rusher on the outside. Most of our guys are like speed to power, bull rushers, collapse the pocket dudes. But I think just off the rip, I think he could be included in like the linebacker pass rush opportunities, kind of like Edge Cooper and Quay Walker had early on. I think the Packers said they're going to start him out at defensive end. And then so he'll be like a rotational specialized pass rush opportunities. But as his career goes on, if he stays in Green Bay, I think they could get him up to speed in kind of like an off-ball linebacker spot as well. And then I think he could help contribute in special teams right away.
The Packers did say that they're going to have him in the edge room.
Yep. To start off,
they're going to put him in the
yep.
edge room.
If you go and watch a couple of his sacks in college, he has some nasty bend and dip around the corner with that speed. Like there's one where you see the offensive lineman about to put his hands on him, and you see this dude just dip right around him and smoke the quarterback. Like he's definitely got the speed and the dip that he's going to be fun to watch on 3rd and longs for sure.
Justin asked, besides the foot injury, did he have any other significant injury issues? I don't see anything else
think so.
in his.
He played 15 games in 2022, and 2023 he played 11.
Also in 2023, Simon brought up his pressures. He had a 14.5% pressure rate. That's pretty good as an edge, and loss.
That's a good.
That's a big number. And then it adds some versatility to that as well. David said, "Does all the pass rushers say anything to you guys about LVN?" No.
I mean, he's not. He's probably going to be on the roster. I would be very surprised if he
Goody
didn't.
said that they like where he's developing.
Yeah.
So, and we
And
saw
LVN's different.
flashes from him last season.
He's also a different body type than the two people we drafted.
Right. And the thing with pass rushers is, like, the more you can rotate fresh bodies in that can all perform, the more pressure you can put on your opposing.
The person that I think should be the most worried, who I think does hold some trade value, is Kingsley Enagbare.
Kingsley Enagbare.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Who is also a free agent at the end of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
Real quick, because I forgot, Baron Terrell had like 53 or 54 pressures last year too. So that's a pretty good
49.
number.
49.
Was it 49?
49. I have it written down right here.
Still, that's almost
Still.
Yeah, only 49.
I had him at.
He's a bum now. I was off by 4. I don't know why I heard that. I heard 53 somewhere. So
You
I
and
mean,
him-
it could just be where you look too. Like everyone kind of measures pressure.
pressures are hard to. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all subjective, especially when you
Yep.
get into PFF. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having depth at pass rusher. You can never get to the packs. You can never get to the quarterback too quickly.
100%.
Adarian said, "I feel Brenton Cox might be a starter following up on what he did last season." I don't know if I'm ready to go that far.
Yeah. I
He'll
mean,
get an opportunity.
he'll get an opportunity to be on the roster. I think. I don't
be on
think
the
his roster spot is.
Not a starter.
I don't think it's solidified.
I think if you force Green Bay to pick, though, right now between Brenton Cox and Kingsley Enagbare, they would pick Brenton Cox. I feel like they've seen what they've seen in Enagbare.
I
Not
think
saying that he
so,
can't
too.
be a good player, but I think he can. We're ready to upgrade a little bit there. He's a good third or fourth pass rusher. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like we have plenty of those on the team now.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would pick on Enagbare. He took a really big leap in run defense last year.
That's true. He did.
Yeah, and the other part of it is the injury history.
Yeah, that's fair.
Enagbare is longer.
Then you also have to take into account Cox Jr. He has a lot of off the field issues in college.
Well, that's
No.
3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
they
know,
can
but
at least
if
start a
you're
year
playing
now.
pros and cons,
I will say this: Cox's off the field issues are older than Kingsley Enagbare's ACL tear, or
Yeah.
ACL tear that wasn't really an ACL tear.
that's fair.
Sorrell also had the same qualities of wanting to be a Packer that AJ Dillon did. Maybe he can be the new mayor of Door County. Maybe.
That's all silly to me.
too soon.
All right. Let's go on to Micah Robinson.
Yeah, so Micah Robinson out of Tulane, 5'11", 184. Are we supposed to be on Micah? Are we skipping one right now?
No, we skipped Brinson,
Brinson.
dude.
Oh, did I skip Brinson? I put him in the wrong
Yep.
order. My bad. Sorry. Warren Brinson.
It's okay. I felt weird with you talking to.
I had the right initial on it, but I have him in the wrong order in the banners. That's my
Nah,
bad.
you're good, dude.
I thought-
I'm fired.
So obviously the Packers had to go in a draft and take a Georgia player. So Brinson was the one that falls to them in the 6th round. 6'5", 315. He was a rotational pass rusher on a very good Georgia defensive front. They just have a billion people that got drafted over the last 3 years. He started 8 of 25 games over the last 2 years. He recorded 4 sacks as an inside rusher and 9 tackles for loss. He had 1 of those sacks and 2.5 tackles for loss in the SEC championship game victory over Texas. And we all know how good Texas was last year. So if you were going to perform on Georgia or Alabama, you were going to do it against Texas and you were going to get noticed. At the scouting combine, the Georgia native was clocked at a 5.09 second in the 40 and recorded a 31-inch vertical. So those are all pretty good numbers. He seems like he's a pretty happy-go-lucky dude. I saw a video of his best friend who was recording when he was telling him that he was going to get drafted by the Packers. And he was like, no. And then he called him after he got picked, and he was just like, ear to ear grinning. He's a pretty funny guy. So he says he's going to come in. He's going to swap out 1G for another. He's going to get a good inside pass rush, which Wyatt has been good when he's been healthy, but it's one of those situations where it's when he's been healthy, right? So we need to we've been looking for a partner for Kenny Clark for quite some time now. So maybe Warren Brinson can be a guy that can be a good rotational guy next to Kenny so he can, get back to the Kenny Clark that we know because he didn't have a Kenny Clark year last year.
Yeah.
We're going to have Brinson, Wyatt, and Stackhouse from Georgia there.
Yeah.
Oh, another Georgia guy. What do you know?
ESPN in their analysis of the pick said they believe that he's capable of playing defensive tackle or defensive end.
Yeah.
I like him more as a defensive tackle. He has a really good rip and swim moves to get to the quarterback or to the ball carrier. That's what I really noticed about him when I was watching some of his highlights since Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Simon or Bryant, anything you guys want to say about Brinson?
No, you kind of hit it with the rip and swim
Yeah.
moves that people have talked about and you've seen on tape. So I think he's a fine piece. Let him develop for a year or two and see what we have in him.
Yep. 6th-round pick. That's pretty much what you do with him. All right. Now on to Micah Robinson.
So Micah Robinson, Tulane, 5. Sorry, I'm gonna be honest. I'm watching something off to the side here.
You got a time delay or?
Yes. Micah Robinson, Tulane, 5'11", 184. So he's a little bit smaller guy, but he ran a 4.42. One thing I noticed about that jumps off tape is this is a good thing and a bad thing. He'll jump routes and he'll get some interceptions, but it also means he'll get beat sometimes. He is good in run support, good recognition, ball skills. He's had multiples of pass defense each year he's played. He has been continuing to improve. My concern is he will struggle a little bit against bigger wide receivers for sure because of his size and his strength. He did allow some longer touchdowns. Also, the biggest concern definitely would be the skill level he's played against. He was at Furman for the first few years, and then he finished up at Tulane. So he hasn't seen many big-time wide receivers. And he also lacks short area quickness. So for me, this kind of screams that he'll probably be an outside wide receivers cornerback where they're going to try to play him because I don't think he really can play in the slot. He has the speed for out there. He'll need to add some functional strength, I think. And, it's a 6th-round draft pick. It's kind of a dart throw. So, 7th-round draft pick, actually. 7th-round draft pick, kind of a dart throw. So we'll see what happens, just adding some more competition to that room. He did have 7 career interceptions. So, like I said, he can attack the ball a little bit. So maybe you get him into a weight room for a year and we'll see what we have in him next year. Or maybe you never know. We've had some, undrafted free agents turn out to be pretty good cornerbacks. So you never know what happens.
Yep. He's got good coverage numbers too. Like he was targeted 47 times, give up 22 receptions. That's 46.8%. That's pretty low. Had a 52.8 NFL rating when targeted. So the numbers are good. You take a 7th-round flyer on a guy who put up good numbers at a small school.
Yep.
Jake or Simon, anything you guys want to say on Micah Robinson?
No, I pretty much hit all of.
I don't want to get redundant. You guys did a nice job.
All right. On the last pick of the draft, John Williams, this to me, they made the pick and it's like, okay, offensive line depth like they always do, and a top 30 visit. I talked about it in the mock draft episode, how many of the top 30 visits, it was 11 out of the 30 last season, ended up on the roster, whether it was picked or undrafted free agent guys. John Williams, another one of those top 30 visits. He's 6'5", 320. He is an excellent pass blocker.
Yep.
He only allowed 8 pressures and 461 pass blocks at Cincinnati last year, 1.7% pressure rate. That is stupid low. And he played 1,756 career snaps at left tackle at Cincinnati. So just a long-time career left tackle that you take with the 250th pick.
Yep, just another depth piece that Goody is trying to add to that tackle spot. So, like Brian said before, you can never have too much depth, and especially at tackle, that's a position where you need to be adding depth and seeing what kind of guys you can get. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our current left tackle was a 7th rounder, right?
Sure was.
Yep. Rasheed Walker was a 7th-round pick.
Yep.
He's turning out to be pretty good, I think.
On the subject of the tackles, Cody said it a while back. I think he's the most excited for Belton. One of his greatest strengths is that he's coachable, and we happen to have one of the best O-line coaches in the league. So there's never going to be a scenario where the Packers draft an offensive lineman and I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
Because you talk about it like people gave the Cowboys shit for drafting a guard with the 12th overall pick. I'm not mad at it for them. You have a $60 million quarterback. Yeah. You cannot protect him too much.
Also, Booker's floor is so high that, it would be shocking not to see him be a solid starter in the NFL.
Also, they have to replace Zach Martin.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Zach Martin.
You're never going to be in a situation where people think you're dumb for trying to protect your quarterback better.
Just like the Vikings, you might say, oh, that wasn't a very sexy pick, but okay, well, what have they struggled with the last few years? Offensive line, so they wouldn't got a guard that's going to play for them.
Yeah,
Like,
not a
that's
good
smart.
pick. Okay. So, undrafted free agents. On the offensive side of the ball, we have 2 running backs. Amar Johnson from South Dakota State. He had 14 touchdowns last year, 1,236 yards, 729 of them came after contact, and 49 missed tackles forced. LOL. So, there's that. Jalen White is the other one from Georgia Southern. He had 13 touchdowns last year, and 527 of his 740 yards came after contact. So, a couple big yard after contact guys that put up massive touchdown seasons. They also brought in wide receiver Julian Fleming from Penn State, who was previously at Ohio State, who had a pretty good 2022 season. Just a camp body there, in my opinion. 3 offensive linemen, Tyler Cooper from Minnesota. That's one I think is probably one of the better UDFAs that'll have a chance to make the roster.
Yep.
And they brought in Brant Banks from Rice, who is a good all-around blocker, but is also 6'7", 318 pounds. And then they brought in J.J. Lippy from Northern Illinois. I don't even know if that's how you say it, but that's how it looks. He's a good pass blocker, but I did not look up a pronunciation for his name. But it's Lippe, so I'm going to say Lippy. Going to the defensive side of the ball, the Packers brought in Jonathan Baldwin, a safety from UNLV, who had 5 sacks in 2024, also a 77.3 NFL rating in coverage, and 27 run stops. So a very versatile potential safety there. They brought in 2 cornerbacks. Kazir Brown from Florida Atlantic. He was 20 of 49 in coverage. That's 40.8%. That's very low. Did give up 5 touchdowns, but had 2 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, and an 82.4 NFL rating when targeted. And then Tyron Herring from Delaware, the known football school for pumping out cornerbacks, Delaware, was 21 of 34 in coverage. That's 61.8%. Had a 72-point NFL rating when targeted. Nothing really jumps off the page there. They brought in a linebacker.
You got to talk about Brown's size, though. Did you talk about that?
Kazir Brown?
Yeah.
I did not.
Have you seen him? He's like 6'1", 223, and he played outside corner.
He's like
the whole time.
He's
freaking yoked.
He's absolutely
like the DK Metcalf of cornerbacks, man. He's just jacked.
They brought in a linebacker, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, a guy that I thought was going to get drafted for sure. Played at Kentucky last year, had 3 years at Georgia before that. He's a guy that I think has a decent shot to make the roster as well. And then we previously mentioned defensive tackle Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson's running mate at Georgia, another defensive tackle. They also invited 4 players that I found to rookie minicamp, one being Tyler Elgersma, the quarterback from Laurier in Ontario, Connor Slay, a linebacker from Wyoming, Luke Gunderson, a linebacker from Northern State, which I don't even know where that is because that's such a super generic name for a college to be Northern.
It's in the north, dude.
It's in a Northern State.
It's in a Northern State. It might not even be. It might not even.
It's in North Carolina, bro.
Dude, yeah, what if it was in like fucking Florida or some shit?
Dude, and it could be. Yeah, it could just be in the northern part of a state.
Yeah.
Not even in a northern state. And then the last guy, a very interesting guy that they brought in from Montana State, a punter / kicker, Brendan Hall. He's 6'9". We brought in a 6'9" punter / kicker from Montana State for rookie minicamp.
Funny enough, Northern State is in South Dakota.
No.
So dumb.
That's amazing.
Now I hate it. Now I hate it so much.
I love it.
Dude, we need
I
to
needed it in
college
North
in
State.
Alaska or something.
I was waiting for it. Oh, that's so funny.
I can't wait to go to tropical state here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
just the opposite.
Well, you have Miami of Ohio. I mean,
dude.
At least it says Ohio, though.
Yeah.
All right. So the last couple things to talk about that aren't particularly related to the draft, but the first one being the Packers did officially sign Isaiah Simmons, something we talked about when they had him in for visits. Essentially, the Packers didn't draft very much linebacking help. You can count Colin Oliver if you really want to, but other than that, it's Jamon Dumas-Johnson. so they brought in Isaiah Simmons for depth. And, Jeff Hafley did a lot of good things with the defense last year, giving him a former top 10 pick. I don't have any issues with it at all.
He's almost like a perfect Eric Wilson replacement because Isaiah Simmons has really cut out his role in special teams. He's been a special teams ace. So
Yeah.
I think there's a high chance he makes the team, to be honest. And it would be it'd be kind of fun to watch Isaiah Simmons, Edgerrin Cooper, and Quay Walker. That's like that's crazy athleticism at that level. Like all three together, that's so much speed. They might not know what the hell they're doing, but they're going to be fast.
His first year,
they're going to the wrong spot real fast.
Like he's okay in coverage. Like I wouldn't call him a good coverage linebacker, but he's average. So like, for a guy that you're bringing in just to see what you can get out of him, like, he's lined up kind of all over the field. So there's versatility there with him, which was one of the things that made him a top 10 pick was his potential versatility. But there's very little risk in bringing him in and a lot of potential reward.
This is like Brian Gutekunst special. You bring in a first round pick who wasn't good and see if you can make something of him. Sammy Watkins and what was the dude, the O lineman from Dillard?
Yeah,
it was a first round pick too, and you just see what happens. I don't blame him.
Just try to put these like super athletic dudes into a good culture situation with good coaches. Like Hafley seems like he's a really good teacher and he's really good at scheming stuff. So imagine him scheming Isaiah Simmons running wide open to your freaking quarterback. I mean, your quarterback's going to shit his pants and then probably throw it in the air, and then Xavier McKinney's going to pick it off, and you're going to be pissed off on the sideline. So I mean,
and then we'll be happy.
Or he's just going to throw it into Isaiah Simmons' face mask, like.
or if you're Caleb Williams, you're going to throw it at the back of somebody's head.
Or out of bounds.
Or backward.
The last question, Connor posed the question, and it's one that's becoming increasingly interesting because we might end up kind of being right about it, which would be cool, is what to do with Jair Alexander. And I'm just going to say the same thing that I've been saying since day one, is if you can restructure him to get under $19 million as a cost this season, that I am all for bringing him back, because that $19 million number that I keep bringing up is his dead cap number if he's released. So if you can get him under that, you are paying him less to stay than you would to release him. And I don't care how many games he plays at that point, because if you release him and you're paying him $19 million and he goes and signs with the Vikings and plays for them, you are essentially paying him to play for another team.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would rather keep him at that point if you can get him under that number.
Yeah, if he can, or if they can restructure to something where it's a lot of incentive based, but based on games played or something, with a high base of like 10 million, and then hey, Ja, you can earn your other 9 million by playing games. You $500,000 a game bonus, whatever, which sounds like stupid money for us type of people, but like whatever works.
Peasants.
Yeah, I wish I made $500,000.
Dog, for real.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they figure something out, because man, if he's on that defense and he's healthy, man, that defense takes another step, and like they're really, really good.
Yeah, I would love to see him and Xavier McKinney have a full season together with development from Bullard and Williams, and now they brought in Nate Hobbs, and honestly, Keyshawn Nixon, he wants to be cornerback one.
Oh yeah, that was another highlight moment. We got to meet Evan Williams, really down earth dude too. So
Justin said I really like Jair. I hate that he's been injury ridden. Hopefully we can keep work out something to keep him. Yeah, if you can make it make sense, I'm all for keeping him up.
Yeah,
I agree. I think 23's got to stay in Green Bay. If this draft said anything, I mean, they replaced a lot of people. They added depth to a lot of other places. The offseason signings, I mean, Hobbs going into the slot. You got Aaron Banks. You're trying to really, lean into a really tough running team. Obviously, Jordan Love needs to stay healthy this year. The offense will just boom if the wide receivers do their job, catch the ball, and Jordan Love stays healthy. If 10 stays healthy on offense and 23 stays healthy on defense, this team is right there with Philadelphia. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And they played them close in the first game. They lost close to them in the playoffs, even though, everything seemed like it was going wrong for us. This team is right there with Philadelphia.
I still think they match up well with Philly.
They do.
Okay. anything else you guys want to say on any of the draft picks or free agents or other stuff going on with the Packers? This will probably be our last show for a little while until some other stuff starts happening. But as we get into the offseason here, but we appreciate everybody sticking with us through the last 7-8 weeks. We had one off in between there after we did the free agency show, but there's a lot to go into it with all the draft stuff that we do, and like we've said it to people in person, we've said it to on this show, we've said it to each other. It's not necessarily we don't do this to try to get the most number of picks right. We do it so that we know the league better, and that's something that we feel is beneficial to us. So we're going to keep doing that, and we appreciate everybody for sticking around with us for the last 7 and 8 weeks.
Sign Zach Tom.
Yeah,
We
extend Tom.
Oh, I thought
Extend Tom.
I was gonna say, yeah, just give these dudes a chance before you start to crap on them. If Matthew Golden's first game is one catch for 14 yards and he had a drop, he's a bust. Like, you're gonna have to give these guys a chance, okay? Like, don't crap on them. Like, give them time.
No, Justin, we cannot. We cannot have.
Oh, come on. That'd be hilarious.
Baby on. No.
Pretty sure every Packer fan would like nut in their shorts.
Yeah, well, they all wanted Willis to start over Love anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, keep an eye on our socials. We will definitely post the next time we're going to have another Packer show on a Tuesday evening. So stay up to date with us on there. On Facebook is probably the place you'll see it the most. That's our most active place. But stick around with us, and we're excited for season 4 that we are covering. So thanks again for sticking around with us for the last month and a half. We'll see you guys soon. And
Go back, go.
Go.
Go Pack.